I kind of prefer the weapons in Streets of Rage if we're going back and forth with the power-ups. I think
I think so too. That doesn't change a lot, but it does change your play style very slightly. Like you can hit a home run with a pipe if you want to, or shank somebody with a knife, or like just clap somebody up against the head with a beer bottle. Like, come on.
Die, monster! You don't belong in this world!
Welcome to the Cable Club. We're a retro video game podcast where three guys fighting in the streets tonight are linking up to talk about games that we love. We're your hosts. I'm Steve.
I'm Dan.
And I'm Don.
And this is episode number 10. The Cable Club.
10. That's a big one.
It's a big number.
Yeah.
Yes, it is.
Yeah, double digits, boys.
We're in there like
it.
swimwear.
Hell yeah.
So is this it? We just quit it from here? Done?
Yeah, I thought we were only doing 10 episodes and then we were done.
Well, Dan's contract is up, so,
See you guys.
We'll have to rewrite him a new one. He's done good enough, I think. This week's episode is a Colosseum, and the two games that we're pitting together are Streets of Rage for the Sega Genesis and Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, Turtles in Time for the Super Nintendo. So get ready to upload data from us to you. I think we had one major, not necessarily a major announcement, but I think the three of us decided on a goal. Don, do you want to talk about that goal a little bit?
Yeah, absolutely. I've heard the best way to accomplish a goal is to tell people about it, put it up on your vision board, and just hope it materializes one day. So we would like to get 50 subs. So if you're out there and you're a sub to us and you listen to us every couple of weeks do this show, tell somebody about it. Try to get us some organic footwork in here, because if we do get 50 subs, we'll do a bonus episode, the topic of which we are still working out, but we will do the bonus episode if we get 50 subs. And that's that'll be 50 YouTube subs, or 50 subs on any platform, actually.
Yeah, so like if we got 50 on YouTube and 50 on Spotify, what would that look like?
Oh, we'll owe you 2 bonus episodes. So feel free to sub here and sub on Spotify and sub on Apple and sub on Audible, sub everywhere. Subs for everyone, footlongs.
Good stuff.
Extra pickles.
The pickles? Yeah, so if anybody wants to skip ahead, I know not everybody is interested in the gaming news and not everybody's interested in our question of the week, even though I personally feel like it's part of the one of the best parts of the show.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah.
However, if it's not for you and you'd like to skip ahead, probably skip to about the 30-35 minute mark is when we get into our game talk. You can use the timestamps below, or you can use the little slider on any of the listening apps you use. So
we'll just think less of you, but it's okay.
Oh, for sure, 100%.
We're trying to spend our time wisely, and I think that it's good content. So Don's mostly right. We're judging you. All right, so Dan, did you want to take it away with question of the week?
Well, actually, instead of a question of the week, guys, what about we do, what are you playing?
Ooh.
So, what are you playing today?
I think I'm going to start us off. So, I'm actually going pretty retro with this one. It's for the Game Boy Advance. I'm playing the first Golden Sun again. I remember playing that in, I think, high school, like freshman year. No. I think 8th grade, actually. And I don't know. It's just, I love that title. I've been having a lot of fun. It's kind of a pixely mess on like the world map and stuff, but it still holds its charm. Do you guys ever play Golden Sun at all?
I have a couple of complaints.
Oh,
Because I
really?
did not play it in high school, but I played it, I think 2 years ago now, or at least tried to play it. Okay. For one thing, I did not know there was a map button for like halfway through the game. Like
Oh,
I'm on the world map, and I'm like, good God, how are you supposed to know where to go? And I'm just
well,
wandering around aimlessly.
well. To
Random
be fair,
encounters are not cool.
the world map is like a pixely mess. Like I've been playing it, and I'm like, how the heck am I supposed to like navigate through this? I don't know. Maybe it's because I'm playing on my ROG Ally, and I don't know. Maybe because it's the bigger screen and it's blowing up. But like, I can't make heads or tails of that world map.
Dan, you got to tweak the settings, man. You have to upscale that sucker to like I don't know what the ROG can handle in terms of GBA, but it's got to be like 12 to 20 times, I would think.
Yeah, maybe. Yeah, yeah. I mean, the world map's pretty, self-explanatory. It's not that big, so even if you run around aimlessly for like, 2 minutes, you'll find an area that you can enter.
Or you'll find a bunch of areas you can't enter, which is how I lived my life. The other one is that I got so like I feel like getting through the story is fine. That's pretty linear if you want to do it. But then there's like all the little Jinjo thingies. I'm using the Banjo Kazooie term. But like I got so paranoid about missing one of these little Jinjo guys, and missing out on a critical move like healing or reviving or something that I just like would have to like turn over every stone. And I
Yeah,
feel like some of the stones are very cryptic.
yeah, and the thing is with those things, I think they're called Degen, but yeah,
Degens?
I think that's what they're called,
It's DJIN. They're Jin.
Oh, Jins, Dan,
or
Jins.
Jins, but whatever they're called. Anytime you collect two, it comes with like a class upgrade, and let me tell you, like those like upgrades are massive to your
Yeah,
stats.
yeah. You get like stat upgrades. So like even if the Jin is bogus,
Yeah,
you'd still get like an attack upgrade or like a magic upgrade, right? So you don't
yeah,
want to miss any.
yeah. So like for every odd number Jin you have, you just get like minor stats. But like once you get like 2, 4, 6, 8, and so on, it comes with a class upgrade, and the class upgrades can like upgrade your stats massively. Like I remember, like I went from one class to another, and I got like 50 HP off it. I was like, holy crap, that's huge.
Oh yeah, and the scale in that game, 50 HP doesn't sound like a lot, but in that game the scale
Yeah,
50 actually matters quite a bit.
yeah, it's like Breath of Fire numbers, like old school Breath of Fire.
Yeah, it's not like Final Fantasy where
Yeah.
50's like
You fool! I have 5,000 HP.
So, yeah, I'm gonna try and 100% it, and then I'm gonna try and play, the sequel if I'm up for it, the
Did you
Lost
know that
Age.
there's 2 sequels?
yeah, there's a DS one.
Yeah, I don't know if I'll go that far. I've heard mixed reviews on it, but like again, I've never played it. I've played the first 2 games, but we'll see how I am after this first one. I'm not even sure if I'll even play the sequel, well, the next Game Boy Advance one.
I thought love of a franchise could get you over like any hump, like even the bad installments in a game, and then I played X7 and just
He hates
nope,
Mega Man X forever now.
nope. It doesn't matter how much I love Mega Man X. It's just so bad.
Well,
Steve, what are
that's
you
the
playing?
game. Yeah, that's the game I was playing. What about you, Steve?
I am nearly finished Hogwarts Legacy. I've been playing for about maybe 2 months, but I'm at the point where I need 3 trophies left to platinum the game. That's after like 600 collectible items that aren't just visible on the map. You have to run around and cast Revelio, Revelio, Revelio. Running around the world doing that stupid thing.
Is it better or worse than just hitting walls in like Metroid or Castlevania to try to find secret walls?
Well, so I went into the settings and I did it. I put on for audio impaired players, so like when you cast a spell, for example.
So you don't have to listen to them say the spell every time?
No. That's not what. So when you cast a Revelio spell, if there is a page nearby, which is the collectible that will reveal itself when you're close enough, what it'll do is it'll ring like a little bell. But when you put on the
Oh.
audio impaired like setting, it shows you like this circle on your screen, and when you do the spell, the bell rings, but then it shows a little icon in the direction of the bell, so you know which way to turn and run towards. And that's not like a normal part of the game unless you turn on that special setting, and it made life
Oh.
so much easier.
I
Wow.
thought you were claiming to be deaf not to hear the voiceover
Oh
over and
no.
over again.
Yeah, that's where I thought he was going with it too.
Yeah, no, it helps you find the direction to go.
Little
Um,
secret strats.
I'm now going
Yeah.
to think about accessibility in the modern video games
Oh,
that
I
I
know,
play now.
right?
I'm going to have to check that out.
Yeah, there's all kinds of stuff like for colorblind people and all kinds of cool stuff for accessibility nowadays. So what I was saying is the last 3 achievements that I need, there's this like point in the game, it's like maybe 2 hours in, where you get to this place called the map room, and you have to do it for each house. Which means you have to start the game over and run for 2 hours into the game just to get this achievement 3 other times. Because there's
Oh.
4 houses. Slytherin, Gryffindor, Hufflepuff, and Ravenclaw. And I just don't know if I'm gonna do it.
I have a question. Which real world house are you guys?
Dan can go.
Oh, I have no idea. Anything Harry Potter? I have no idea.
Oh no.
All right. Welcome to House Hufflepuff, Dan. Steve,
Oh,
Sure,
what
I'll
house
take
are
it.
you?
oh, you probably
is
can't
that?
see it.
I can't see it.
Dang.
You nerd.
Sorry. I'm a Slytherin.
Ah,
Ambition and cunning. What about you,
I'm a
Don?
Gryffindor.
Oh.
I was
One of
asked
those.
why I'm not a Ravenclaw, and I was like, because I don't want to be Dawn the Wise. I want to be Dawn the Great.
Well, we all know that Gryffindors aren't humble, so...
What was mine again? Humble Puff or whatever you said?
Hufflepuff, they're loyalty. They're like the best of friends type of people.
Depends on
Oh.
which source you read. I also read it's the catch-all for people that didn't get into the other houses.
Well,
You're
to be fair,
excellent at friendship. You're a
I
good
guess I'm
friend,
gonna have
man.
to take it because I don't know any other houses. If you guys need a pal, you know where to find me.
I mean,
where
you
can
and
they
I have
find
been
you?
friends since before Harry Potter existed, Steve, and I had no idea you were such a big Harry Potter fan. None.
Well, I don't know. I guess it's being with my wife she's a big Harry Potter fan, so it became more like in my life. My kids like it, so I'm more invested in it now than I was as a child.
Makes sense.
But Slytherin are cool, so I'm all right with it.
Nice.
How about you, Don? What have you been playing?
Today I just finished Prince of Persia, which I
Oh.
was really happy with. That is the Lost Crown. I know that could be a confusing title for this podcast because I could be talking about any Prince of Persia. No, I'm talking about the new one. I played it on Switch. It's an excellent hybrid handheld / big game TV title. It's a Metroidvania, which I think is different from the rest of the series, is my
I
understanding.
think so.
Yeah, it
Yeah.
is.
I
Yeah.
think for a long time it hasn't been a Metroidvania, or at least like one map style.
Yeah, I don't think it's technically been a Metroidvania before. The first one was like level based, but it was like gameplay wise like a Metroidvania, just not
Yeah.
map based.
Yeah. I think the
Yeah.
second one was like that too, where it was like, I mean, there was like minor backtracking, but I think once you got into like the next area, like you were locked in that area. So like there was no like going back, to previous areas.
So I won't spoil anything, but the game's story I think is pretty good. But unfortunately, I think the end kind of peters out quite a bit. I think the final boss is one of those like super disappointing bosses that you really kind of expected better, and it's really kind of an easy fight relative to some of the others.
Yeah,
I think the
that's a
rest of the
shame.
game is really hard. If you like platforming, holy crap, is this really good. Like
Yeah.
you do stuff throughout this game that if you did it in any other game, I think it would be considered jank. and you'd be like heavily rewarded for it. But the jank is expected of you, like to actually get through to parts of the game you're supposed to go to, not just for exploration. Like I remember going up like certain parts, you get this like teleport ability, right? Where you don't teleport, you leave an after image of yourself and you can zip back to it. And of course there's crap that's like moving around the map, right? Like buzz saws and like flamethrowers and all different kinds of stuff, right? So like you could like essentially jump, double jump, leave one in the air, fall, use your like swipey attack to hang in the air for a minute for whatever it is to pass, zip yourself back, zip over like to the wall, and then double jump up to the next section that you're gonna have to like zip over and zigzag around more buzzsaws, and you're thinking to yourself like, oh, like there must be a sick treasure at the end of this. No, it's just where you're supposed to go. Like you were just supposed to do that. And like, you know, I'm thinking of like, it's harder than bomb jumping in Metroid, and usually when you bomb jump and get to something early, you are rewarded for that. But
It kind of
crazy.
reminds me of like shine sparking in Metroid, where if you guys don't know what that term is, it's
Yeah.
you basically
Dan,
like
we're a Metroid podcast. We know.
Yeah, but the fans might not.
Yeah, I'm gonna quickly explain it for our fans. So shine sparking is basically when you get like the hyperspeed going, and then when you do like the dash attack, like when she's like flying across the screen, if you do that on an incline, you actually get to save the shine sparking, like it can continues. So if you press down again, you can store it again. And a lot of the time, to get like the really hard like items to get 100%, you got to do some ridiculous shine sparking. At least I know in the GBA versions you have to. So when he was like explaining that, it kind of reminded me of that jank.
Did you know that shine sparking drains your HP?
Well, I don't remember in the GBA versions if it does. I know it does in the Super Nintendo.
In Super Metroid, it drains your HP when you're doing the jump. The only reason I know that is because I had like, I don't know, 10 energy, and I shine sparked in a thing. I don't remember, it was some kind of like quicksand or something, and I was slowly shine sparking. I wasn't flying, and my HP was just draining and draining and draining as I was slowly moving across the screen. I was like, I'm
slowly zipping past.
But Prince of Persia, excellent.
I want to play it at some point, but I just bought
so many games.
FF7 Remake for the PS5. I played it on the PS4. I want to play it again on the PS5, and then if I'm still interested, I'll get Rebirth. That's my plan in the future.
I just don't have the time to play all these games, damn it.
Sure don't. All right, you fellas want to transition to some news?
Sure thing.
All right, news this week, since I know you guys didn't do your homework that I sent in Discord for us to all do.
I'm tired.
There was a Nintendo Direct. Just be happy you didn't watch it. I felt like there was not a lot of standouts. Maybe this is the Switch finally winding down. There's a lot of indie titles, you know, if you're into that kind of thing. I think it's a hard thing to be into and a hard thing to get excited about, just because you never know what you're going to get with indie titles, especially in this format.
I feel like that's been kind of like the Switch's Direct lately. A ton of indie stuff, not so much Nintendo developed stuff. And so like the hype isn't really there for me for the Switch.
Right.
So it makes sense that you say that it might mean that it's winding down, and I think everybody's kind of aware of the Switch 2 coming out. So
I was kind of hoping to get some like GameCube ports or something. You know, I mean, they always talk about what they're adding to the Nintendo Online, and I just feel like that's exciting. I guess it's kind of whatever for me. But I don't know. There was one game that kind of stood out only because the tagline. It's called Another Crab's Treasure. And you play as a little hermit crab who shed his shell.
Yeah, I actually looked that one up.
Yeah, they call it an undersea Souls-like.
I mean, to be honest,
and it's like a Pixar crab. Like you're like a Pixar animated crab. Like this is Finding Nemo the game, They called it a Souls leg, like you're going to fight the nameless king at the end of
Yeah.
this and use his helmet as a shell.
It looks silly as hell, but it does look kind of fun. Like from what I looked at is like you have to like get new shells because you're like a shell crab, I think. And
Yeah,
you
a
start
hermit crab, Dan.
I think you start off with like a can or something, like a littered can, and then you like slowly upgrade to like better stuff, like actual shells and stuff. And it just looked silly, but the gameplay actually looked pretty fun.
Eventually, you become that giant jerk crab from the Moana show, from the Moana movie.
Yeah. Because I'm shiny.
So yeah, I feel like that's probably winding down, but that kind of plays into another piece of news, because there also was a Pokemon Presents. So if you like this kind of thing, there was plenty to go around. I know I'm about to step in it right now, so if you're listening and you want to comment and tell me how ignorant I am, go
Pokemon's
ahead.
dead.
Yeah, the Pokemon Presents. I gotta say, I feel like the people that do that are just the driest human beings that exists. It's basically like watching Russian cable news, except they're talking about Pokemon. Like, I just don't understand. Like, yeah, I don't know. It's probably like a cultural thing. They're
They
all
should just
Japanese.
have
I'm
children do
assuming.
it, and they would be so excited.
Yeah, like there's just no excitement. They're usually just wearing business suits. I don't know. I mean,
Watch me catch this
probably
Weedle.
my Western sensibilities. Yeah, like I said, tell me how ignorant I am in the comments.
It evolves at level 7 into an
Oh,
even
nice.
more exciting Kakuna.
I have Kakuna now. Yay.
Hey, if we got half as many views as them, maybe we should just wear shirts and ties to do this thing, and not smile. So I gotta say, there are a lot of crappy Pokemon mobile games. That is like what they spent most of this 22 minutes or so talking about, was
Like
the
Pokemon
additions to all
Go.
these mobile games. Yeah, I honestly I don't know why people liked it. I don't like it. I'm a
Do you
long
guys
time
remember-
OG Pokemon fan. I don't like it.
Do you guys remember how crazy Pokemon Go was like when it first released?
Yep.
Yeah.
It was insane.
People like stumbling into streets and stuff, and
Yeah,
almost getting hit by
I
cars.
ran into people I haven't met in years, just like walking down the street when that first came out.
Like people ending up in government complexes and crap like that that you just shouldn't be in.
Dan, you came out of your house.
Yeah, I'm not supposed to be out here. What am I doing?
It's a Caterpie!
It was very generous at the beginning, I feel like, for a mobile game. You really didn't have to spend money on much to have a good time.
I think I spent money on Pokeballs like maybe 2 or 3 times just because it was like a weekend day. We were going out to do it, and I just didn't
here
have
we
any.
go. Hardcore fan over here.
Well,
It was $1.
I don't like microtransactions, but I do feel like if you've played a game for a certain amount of time and it's free to play, like I think it's okay to throw some money into it. Like if you've played it for 40 hours, like I don't know.
Oh yeah,
I
for sure.
Yeah, but at the very end of the Pokemon Presents, they teased a 2025 worldwide simultaneous release of a title called Pokemon Legends Z minus A, I think is what the full title is.
Ooh.
And they teased the little Mega Evolution symbol. We're a Pokemon scented podcast here, so I'm assuming you guys are all familiar with Mega Evolution, right?
Oh, yeah.
I think it's pretty much everybody's favorite Pokemon gimmick of them. I personally like Terastallization, even though the design is lazy. But anyway, so people are excited for that. I wonder if that in itself is a Switch 2 rumor. Like, I've heard the Switch is delayed, right?
Yeah.
Like, maybe until 2025. And so I wonder if that game is going to come out, as like a Switch launch title or somewhere adjacent to the Switch launch.
I mean, I hope so. I mean, I would definitely like a Switch 2, and I hope like they make it stronger. Like I'm kind of, I know they're all about like accessibility and whatnot, and they're like catered for kids for the most part. But I want like a system that was like similar to the GameCube, like a nice meaty system, that can just run all the current titles and like actually compete.
What
I
do you
mean,
want to see? Mario's 5 o'clock shadow?
yeah, absolutely.
I want to see like Wario's big gaping pores. Like,
Yeah, I want to be able to smell them too.
so I've heard that apparently the Switch 2, I guess it's like in I don't know if it's like an inside source or if this is just garbage, like tinfoil hat stuff. But basically, I guess someone was able to locate some kind of large chip order that may or may not have been from Nintendo, and that allows people to kind of speculate like what the power of this thing is going to be. And I guess they think it might be as powerful as a PlayStation 4. So, which my understanding is not that much less powerful than a PlayStation 5.
I mean, I'll take it.
Yeah.
What is like the Switch like? Isn't that like in between PS3 and PS2, or
It's like
am I off on that? Is it even?
I think it's like a PS3.
Yeah.
You play like
probably.
Skyrim, right?
So it launched the Arkham trilogy, but apparently it's bad and janky. So
on the
Arkham
Switch?
trilogy, yeah, like Arkham Asylum and Arkham City were on Xbox 360.
Yeah,
And
PS3, Xbox
PlayStation
360
3, right?
time.
So for the Switch not being able to handle those games super well, like it's it's kind of bad hardware wise.
Yeah, like come on.
Yeah.
Step it
Also,
up.
like, in my opinion, like I would be willing to drop like $500 for like a more current handheld like combination for the Switch 2. Like I'd be willing to drop a little extra money for it to be able to compete graphically with like PS4 and Xbox One,
Yeah, I mean, I know they would never do it, but why don't they just do both? Make a Switch 2 for for everyone who prefers portable, and actually make a big rig for people who like the AAA titles.
Well, because they don't want to have a system under the same name that doesn't play all of the games that get released, right? Like they don't want to have a Switch Pro,
Yeah,
right? That can play Switch Pro games only.
Like I said, I don't think they'd ever do it, but it would be nice because I would actually buy like a heavy
Well, you say
powered
that
Nintendo system.
they had the 2DS and the 3DS. 3DS could play the 3D versions of the games, so I mean, why not have the system that can upscale the graphics properly and the system that downscales it to what it can handle? I don't know. I'm not a developer or programmer.
I mean,
so it could be a lot harder
Nintendo
than
doesn't do this graphics arm race, right?
No, they don't.
What Nintendo does is do enough third party stuff to keep pace with other people and keep their system viable, right? But they also released polished, complete games. And if you're saying Pokemon Scarlet and Violet, Pokemon Company is its own separate thing. It does work exclusively with Nintendo, but it's not the same development set of teams, right? Like, when was the last time you had a broken Mario game? Like, it doesn't happen, right? Like, ever. Or like a broken Metroid game. Like I know these games have glitches. You can find them if you take the time, but it takes a long time to find these
Right.
imperfections, and it takes a lot of work usually. Like, it's that's what they do, and I think that's what keeps me coming back time and time again. That I know if I buy the system and I buy the Nintendo licensed games, they're going to be great. And I'm going to go back to Prince of Persia for a second. Again, no spoiling anything, but like there's such a major plot hole in that story that I had to look up what happened to a specific character because I was like, they just never went over it. They just like this character existed for part of the storyline, and then like halfway through the game, you just never hear from them again. They're like an important character, and then they don't mention them at the end. Like I had to Google like, did I miss something? And you just don't get that kind of stuff with Nintendo. They don't have that kind of they don't like make those oversights basically.
Yeah, I will say they do come out with polished games. Like especially like if you look at like the Smash titles, now that like people try to do their own like Smash-esque game, you can just tell that like the Smash ones are just in a different league. Like just they're just way more polished. And it shows like you can within the first 30 seconds you can just tell that like this isn't as good as Smash. So like I get what you're saying with that, Don.
Yeah.
I agree. I hope they go back to the old Zelda formula too.
I don't know.
Yeah, well, I don't know if they're going to do that, but hopefully they will, continue to remaster um, old Zelda formula titles, and maybe once in a while release a Zelda title that is in the old style of
Yeah, why
formula.
not
But
both?
yeah, well, I think it could be a world where we do live in both.
That would
I
be
hope so.
the best timeline.
So, yeah, if you have any comments about the news, go ahead and let us know or write us in at thecableclubpodcast.com. Or if you would like to ask us a question of the week, it doesn't have to be gaming related, but we'd prefer it. Go ahead and also write us in there as well, or in the comments, or any of our shorts. Thecableclubpodcast at gmail.com. All right, guys, you ready to crack open this Colosseum?
Let's do it.
Ding ding.
All right. Ding, ding. All right, so as we said at the top of the episode, this is a Colosseum episode, and these episodes we like to take two games and put them head to head. Hopefully they're two similar games from some similar time frame, or they are at least comparable. We're going to take them across our 5 categories, which are presentation, gameplay, pacing, playability, and X Factor. Today our 2 games are Streets of Rage from 1991 and Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles
Turtles
in Time.
Cowabunga.
Cowabunga. Yeah, we need to let more of that loose. Tubular. From the bodacious year of 1991.
Righteous! Righteous!
Now, these are both beat 'em up titles. If you're not familiar, one of these, The Turtles in Time, is actually an arcade port. It was released in arcades first. It was brought to the SNES. The other one, Streets of Rage, Sega had this phase, and I think never really grew out of it until their Dreamcast console, failed, where they saw the hype in the arcade and wanted to bring that into the home. Streets of Rage was an arcade-style beat-em-up designed specifically for your home console from the ground up, not a port. So both games, you kind of go from level to level. You fight a variety of enemies on a multi-lane scale, going up and down, right? Punching them, throwing them,
X and Y
suplexing
axis.
them. Yeah, exactly. X and Y axis, right? And you fight bosses typically at the end of a level, and you just go through until you beat the big bad. Those are kind of beat 'em up style games.
Yeah, I think like X-Men Arcade or The Simpsons Arcade or River City Ransom or
God, I love the X-Men arcade.
Double Dragon.
yeah, Double Dragon, Jimmy and Bimmy.
The X-Men arcade is just so eclectic.
Dude, the 8-player one. Ooh.
Welcome to Die.
You got your roll of quarters in your pocket. You're ready to go with all your buddies. Up the Pizza Hut.
Yeah. Good times.
Totally tubular. Gnarly, dude. Gnarly game.
Non-heinous.
So our first category is the presentation of these two games. So think graphics, sounds, sound effects. How is the game overall presented through your eyes, ears? I think those are the only two receiving orifices that apply here.
Yeah. The music in both games are great.
The music is tasty.
Yeah.
It's juicy.
The cheese pull on the music of Streets of Rage 1 is phenomenal. I have been listening to that soundtrack all week. Every time I have to do something for the podcast, I put that on and I start cranking. And actually, my wife walked in the other day and she was like, "What is this? This music slaps." She does not play video games, by the way, at all. Just saying, Streets of Rage music is top tier. It has a couple of songs that are maybe weaker, depends on your taste, right? But the strong ones are just so bumping.
Yeah. I like the I think it's called Violent Breathing. That one's phenomenal. I
Is
think
that the final boss one?
no, I think it's like the stage before the last stage.
Oh, the elevator one?
Yeah, I believe it's that stage.
Even just like the intro music with like the scrolling story has kind of like that rock ballad esque to it, and then it starts like with like a little bit of hip hop, like just beats in there.
Yeah,
And it's just I don't know, just layer on top of layer. It's so good.
yeah,
Yeah,
you know,
I like
it
the
does
music.
speak volumes too. Like when a Sega title actually has like great music, because in my opinion, Sega kind of lacks in the music department for a lot of games. So it really does say something when the music is great on the Sega.
And you can get the bass on that Sega sound chip thumping with this music. You used to
So
turn your CRT all the way up, and your parents wouldn't even tell you to turn it down because they'd be jamming doing dishes.
let's set the stage. So in Streets of Rage, it's a dark and moody and desperate feeling, like the weight of the dilemma, the prowl of the streets. It's like you're fighting hardened criminals, and you're fighting this evil criminal syndicate, and it's
Yeah,
gritty, and it just
they're ex cops, right?
they
Like
are
All of them.
yeah,
Yeah.
vigilante cops, yeah.
Yeah.
yeah,
And
And so
they're all like 20 years old. It's like ex-cop.
you
He's
feel
seen some crap on the force.
you feel like you're in the underbelly of the city, and you're the only team that can take justice into your own hands. The music's like electronic, and it's just like a thriving night feel. Like it feels so city nightlife, and it fits extremely well.
It's like a night-long brawl at an after-hours club.
yeah.
Like that's basically what the vibe is here.
You feel like breaking a beer bottle over somebody's head,
And you can.
and you
Yeah,
Yep.
oh
can.
yeah.
You can. We'll
Or
we'll get into that
yeah, for
gameplay.
sure.
Yeah, the music was really good in my opinion as well. And the graphics fit really well too. You know, I think moving on into that, it's like they have all kinds of signs and all kinds of environments. You can see street poles. You can see, you
It's
know,
very bright. Like sometimes those old games that are in like a city setting can have like dank colors throughout it,
Yeah,
but there's a lot of bright colors that really pop
right.
yeah,
too.
the
Yeah,
Sega
that does.
Genesis was pretty good about that in general.
True.
Um, I I like the graphics in Streets of Rage. My only issue is and it's with both games, is the enemy sprites are just so samey.
Yeah,
In
reused or
TMNT you
different
have
colors. Yeah,
all the foot ninjas, and then you have a couple other enemies too. But in Streets of Rage, there's only 5 regular enemies, and they just changed the colors a little bit. And then you have 5 different bosses or 6 bosses or whatever it is. It
Yeah,
just
you just know that the enemies hit harder and they have more health. But yeah,
yeah.
they
I mean,
Yeah.
they
some
are
of them are a
reused
little.
pellets. Yeah.
They're a little different in some aspects. Like I know, like with the girl with the whip. Like I think the black variant of it. Like when you hit her, she goes down and you can't really hit her until she gets back up.
it's so annoying.
So I mean, some of them have different mechanics. I mean, it's nothing crazy, but it's there.
Yeah, but strictly visually speaking, I get what Steve is saying. There are a
Yeah,
lot of reused assets.
yeah, for sure.
I mean, that's in both games, but I know TMNT has the sewer mute aliens, and then they have the techno guys that are on one wheel that fly around or whatever. Then I think you have the Wild West level and the pirate ship level. You have foot soldiers riding pterodactyls in the prehistoric level. So they kind of changed it up a little bit more in that aspect than Streets of Rage. But that's not to take anything away from Streets of Rage. I still think with what they had, they did well with.
And I'd say for both games, the visuals don't really interfere with the gameplay, which I do think is part of the presentation, right? Like if
Yeah,
there's something about the visuals that makes it difficult to play the game, I would take points off there. Um, I would say that Streets of Rage seems highly pixelated for the year if you consider that TMNT came out in the same year, and I'd say that that Turtles in Time looks like the Saturday cartoon.
That was the goal.
like that Saturday morning cartoon
Yeah.
from the 80s. It does look like that, and it feels like that.
Yeah, like the presentation, it's like really fun and slapstick. It's what you would expect from the Turtles that you grew up with from the 90s. You know,
It's very comfortable.
makes
yeah.
you feel like you're a kid again. It's like energetic and, you know, it's just like the animated series. It looked really good for a 91 game. Like,
Yeah, no, it's
it's
fantastic.
really good.
The music
Oh, it
too.
definitely still looks like the cartoon did. You know, I think if you would say the cartoon holds up, which I don't think it does, but if you do feel that the cartoon still holds up, then you would feel that this game holds up too graphically.
Oh yeah, for sure.
Like, it's amazing how close they got it. You know?
Yeah, especially like the first couple soundtracks too. I got a wave of nostalgia when I first heard the first couple soundtracks because it's just basically like the intro of like the old cartoon, and
Yeah.
it's just like that's why I like really like the music in this game too, is because like it's just like so upbeat and it makes you pumped for wanting to beat like the Foot Clan.
Yeah, and you know, the presentation makes it feel more like fun, whereas Streets of Rage makes it feel more serious. So it just like
But awesome.
Well, definitely awesome. They're both awesome in their own way. What I'm saying is that they are on two sides of the spectrum of beat 'em ups, which I think is going to make it a pretty good Colosseum.
For sure.
You know what else I liked in Turtles in Time? I don't know if you guys game overed, but I'm assuming you did.
Oh yeah,
the type of game it is. I liked that they had like the turtles underneath the manhole cover, like that, like the movie that came out in like that harken back image, because I actually really love that first Ninja Turtles movie. I think it's the best Ninja Turtles movie that's ever been made, even still.
Yeah.
But yeah, I did really like that Easter egg, and I feel like you got that a lot more with the SNES than you did with the Genesis. Just little Easter eggs like that. And I think the SNES cartridges just had a much larger memory.
Yeah.
I could be wrong. Again, correct me in the comments and how stupid I am if I'm wrong.
I want to say something a little bit about like the movies. Do you guys ever like? I don't know if you guys ever looked this up, but like, have you guys ever see the condition of like the old costumes they used back then?
Mm-mm.
You should, because they
look like now.
Yeah, because they look like zombified.
Well, yeah. I mean, back in the day with all those practical effects, some of that stuff must just like decompose.
Oh no, it did. Like hardcore. Yeah. Like the Leonardo one looks scary as hell.
So sad.
He looks like a zombie. Like
yeah.
I'll look it up after.
Yeah.
Link in the show notes. You know, overall, the presentation, you know, I think just because pixelated is in vogue, I don't think it's enough to give it to Streets of Rage. I think that you know, both games have really good soundtracks. I really think it comes down to preference, and I think because Turtles in Time still looks so good today because it's based off the cartoon, I'm actually going to give presentation to Turtles in Time.
Ooh. All right.
Yeah.
Man.
Yeah, we're getting the scorecard out now.
Yeah, we're gonna write some of the stuff down.
Yeah, I mean, both games are pretty damn good at what they do, like, you know, visually and musically. But I don't know if I'm just being a little biased here, but like just, you know, the old school cartoons, it like resonated with me with like Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. So I think I'm gonna give this point as well to Turtles in Time.
So Turtles. So presentation-wise, it was very close for me. On one hand, TMNT had a really good cartoony presentation, and it's wonderful. Like, it brought me back to childhood. Great. On the other hand, Streets of Rage is dark, brooding, and serious. And if I was still a kid, like more of a kid, I would be all over TMNT over Streets of Rage. But I just, growing older and liking the more dark and gritty stuff as I have, I actually, after a really hard decision, decided to go with Streets of Rage. Because, like, I just felt like I related to it just a little bit more as an adult, just how it all came together. And it was really hard for me, but I went with Streets of Rage.
Should have let him go first.
Yeah, fair enough.
Nobody can ever accuse me of not fighting fair. Just saying.
It's the only point it's getting.
If you somehow missed the thumbnail, I am firmly on the Streets of Rage side in this argument. These two guys told me in the middle of the first week of us playing this game, like day 2 after us selecting these games. Yeah, we played it together and we're firmly cemented in our choice. That was the message left in our collaboration. I was like, unbelievable.
That's when Dawn turned Super Saiyan.
Oh yeah, no, we're
Listen, I told you I was going to be fair.
cemented 2 days in.
I just think the second one would have been better.
Maybe. So gameplay. Dan, you want to kick us off in gameplay? You want to start it?
Sure. So, obviously they're beat 'em up games. With the X and Y axis, you move up and down to hit your opponents. I feel both games are pretty good at they feel snappy.
Different lanes.
Different lanes, yeah. As far as like Streets of Rage, like it has like a power up system, not like a power up, but like you get to call the cops, and then they come behind you and they shoot like these like rocket launchers and flamethrowers.
Screen clear.
Yeah.
A little bit of police brutality in with your Saturday night fun.
Yeah. I don't know why, but it's just enjoyable to watch that when you call upon the police to mow, especially the bosses, to mow down the bosses.
I like how urgent they are too.
Yeah, we do not have that response time in my neighborhood, let me tell you.
Or the
Not even
accuracy.
close.
How the heck do these cops hit these like explosives and not hitting like their allies, but like destroying all the enemies on the screen?
The funny thing about an explosion is it doesn't have to hit you to kill you. But
they need a raise.
It's a video game.
Especially the guy that shoots the rocket launcher up like 20 stories on this like elevator that's going up.
I like that you could be like swinging your fists around and snap your friend in the face because there's friendly fire, but for some reason the rockets raining down just don't hit you. Like this.
Well, I mean, I don't know.
They're the real MVP. Come on now.
He's just so good at aiming. He's better
He's
than
got like
you.
a minigun. Like the first cop shows up with a bazooka, and if you're playing with player 2, and player 2 does it, he's got like a minigun with like explosive rounds.
Yeah.
He's firing at an arc through the air.
Yeah, I
like over the shoulder type of a gun, not like a cop gun, like on his shoulder, like pulls out of the passenger seat.
Listen, crime's gotten really bad. All right.
Yeah, they had to pull out the big guns.
Oh yeah, man! When the bars let out, you can't be messing around anymore.
Yeah.
The only special attack. Okay, so there's like 2 kinds of special attacks in TMNT. The first one is a move that you can do that hurts your HP, but it like
I'm not a fan of those.
Yeah,
are you guys?
The only one worth a damn is Leonardo. The other ones are terrible. I tried them all. Like that, those kinds of moves in these beat 'em ups really need to get things off of you.
Yeah.
And like Raphael's is like a hop and a kick, like
I'm not a fan of
a chicken kick.
Yeah, I'm not a fan of his,
thing.
but I'm not a fan of those in general.
Yeah, well, actually, I mean, if you play enough of the, so I'm like a big beat 'em up guy. If you play enough of these games, speed run strats, like those type of moves tend to be really good. You just learn not to get hit.
Right.
Yeah. The other special
and you use them to
is the bomb power up. You pick it up and you get like it's not a screen clear per se, but like you spin around real fast and you just hit everything and kill them. But it's not a selectable. It's not like you can just use it when you need it. It's if it's there, you can pick it up.
I was not super impressed with that. As far as like
but
power ups go,
I know it's on the Super Nintendo and that's what we played. But in the arcade setting, that you fight your friends for it, right? So it's like that's why it's there. It's in place for a little bit of like competitiveness with your friends while teaming up.
For the
Fair
extra
enough.
points.
I kind of prefer the weapons in Streets of Rage if we're going back and forth with the power-ups. I think
Yeah, I think so too. That doesn't change a lot, but it does change your play style very slightly. Like you can hit a home run with a pipe if you want to, or shank somebody with a knife, or like just clap somebody up against the head with a beer bottle. Like, come on, it's
and there's two different kinds of health power-ups in Streets of Rage, which let the designers put them in like more areas, and you can kind of parse them out because the way that beat 'em ups are is you walk, stop, and fight, walk, stop, and fight, walk, stop, and fight, right? In TMNT, the health power ups are sparse, and they have to be because they're just all full heals, right? But you might get an apple once in a while and not a pork chop or whatever the other one is. In
a roast.
in Streets of Rage, and the apple only heals for like a quarter or a third of your health, right? So it just might help you kick along to the next group of enemies.
Yeah, it's not very significant, but it can help.
I mean,
And I wanted
sometimes
to
that's all
talk
you
about
need.
the
Sometimes.
yeah. You just need an apple on a plate. Do you guys ever put apples on a plate? I just don't dirty the dish. I'll be honest with you.
Maybe if I'm slicing it up.
Yeah, if I'm slicing it up and I have like peanut butter or something with the apples, then yeah.
Just got to whip out
No,
that combat knife. You know what I mean?
I'll just put the dollop of peanut butter right on the cutting board and just take that with me. I'm not pulling a plate out for this.
I don't
Fair
know.
enough. I wanted to talk a little bit about the punching. Okay.
Oh yeah.
Here's my beef. All right. With Streets of Rage, when you punch, that punch comes out, and when it connects, it connects. Like it's like, boom, hit him, right? And then it hit stuns the enemy, and then you could turn around and you could chain attacks from enemy to enemy if you have to help get out and position yourself better, right?
Yeah.
Because that's what these games are all about.
They
They're
hit
like
stuns a long time in
sticking and
Streets of
move.
Rage.
You can jab lock
well, I
enemies
mean,
to death.
Yeah.
especially on the harder difficulties, you kind of have to, right? On Turtles in Time, there's like a visual delay of when the weapon connects and when it actually hits. And it's like especially bad on like Donatello, if you guys played Donatello at all. It's a little bit better on Leonardo, but like that kind of stuff really makes me feel like it's an arcade game and it's designed to eat your quarters. Like where like you swing, you see the character swing, and then like a split second later the enemy gets hit. And also it's really hard to end your combo. So like if you swing and then turn and then swing again, you're like still in the middle of your combo and you can get punished a lot. I also didn't like how grabby the foot soldiers are. Like you can get grabbed in Streets of Rage 2, and you can do a lot of grappling in Streets of Rage. In fact, there's probably enough suplexes in that game to make Vince McMahon blush. But like the grappling in Streets of Rage doesn't happen from the enemy a lot, which I think is good.
Yeah. And
Because
then
it cuts down on like the button mashing
Right.
stuff. But then like the grapple that you have available to you in Streets of Rage is very reliable and very clear what you're doing. Whereas I really had to take some time to adjust to try to figure out exactly how the grapple worked in Turtles in Time. And even then, sometimes like it didn't work and I would get punished and killed. Like just because it, like I can't really explain it.
Right. You can also like tech your when you're being thrown too, like by the enemy. Like
Yeah. In Streets of Rage, you can
yeah,
tech.
yeah. So in
Yeah.
Streets of Rage, when you get grabbed and get thrown, you have a chance to actually like land on your feet. And I also think it's like a co-op thing too, right? You can grab your partner for like team attack moves.
Yeah, you can jump over him and do like an aerial tackle as Axel. I don't know what the other characters have, but
They all have kind of like an aerial tackle, and it's one of the strongest moves you can do too.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't think Turtles in Time had any sort of like co-op attack type moves.
I don't think so.
Even Simpsons Arcade did. Remember that?
Yeah,
That, like,
those were
depending on the
special attacks,
characters.
though, weren't
Yeah.
they?
No, you could team up and do. I don't know exactly how they were done, but there was a way that you could get near enough your partner, and there was a button input that would let you guys kind of run around the screen.
Yeah. I remember it, just don't remember if it was like a special or what.
Yeah. I don't think
Uh,
we mentioned it yet, but the movement speed of both games is like
I was about
definitely
to say
different.
something about it. Yeah.
Like Streets of Rage is definitely slower. I know, like just like the base speed of the turtles are faster, and then they also can run too, or dash, whatever you want to call it. Which
Oh, you didn't play as Donatello, did you?
no, I played as Raphael. He zips
Oh,
around the screen, dude.
okay. Raphael is absurdly fast. I will give you that. He's the fastest character that we're going to talk about today, Raphael.
Yeah, but I think just the base game is faster because like in Streets of Rage, your character just walk. I don't think there's any dashing or running or
I don't think you walk very far though. It's not like there are long stretches where you walk and you don't run into trouble or have to
no,
fight
no,
something. Like it's a
no,
you know
yeah, no, it's kind of irrelevant when it when you put it that way. But I just know when you want to like go around the screen and stuff, like just zip around. I noticed that Turtles in Time was more like faster than Streets of Rage.
Yeah, so like when I was thinking about the two games and the movement speed, like Turtles feels a lot more energetic and a lot more fast paced and a lot more upbeat, and it's just like good old fashioned beat 'em up fun. And Streets of Rage is a little bit slower, a little bit more planned out. The
Yeah,
grappling is like a bigger part of it. The stun lock from the punches, it's a little bit more like
technical.
methodical, yeah, and
Yeah,
technical.
tactical,
Yeah.
technical.
So they're different in those ways. So if you're listening to this, you should be getting the idea that it can be very polarizing because it can be difficult to decide which one you like more because they both are beat 'em ups, but you can clearly feel a difference in the style of beat 'em up.
yeah, for sure. I definitely felt more mashy in Turtles in Time.
Yeah, and if that's what you're
It
looking
does
for,
have that
like
like arcade mashiness. That
right.
was something that I picked up a lot. And beat 'em up games get a bad rap in general. And I feel like games like Turtles in Time are the reason
Yeah, I mean, it was
that
91.
that mash A until you win thing. But I don't know. I feel like again because Streets of Rage was designed for the home console, they
Right.
took a lot of those sensibilities in mind, right? Where they made it so that it was beatable. Like the bosses and stuff have behaviors, not just let you hit them 3 times and then crack you back with a kick designed to steal your quarters. I'm thinking of Magneto. He's famous for his footwork and his kicks. You're just fighting him as Wolverine, and he turns around and claps you in the mouth with a roundhouse kick.
You
Yeah,
see Magneto in the background with his hand with the magnets like sucking all your quarters up.
Yeah, it's what he's using his power, he's using his kicks to kill your character. It's not to say some characters don't kick you in Streets of Rage; they do, but
I don't know. I feel like they did a pretty decent job in Turtles as well as far as bosses go. Like, yeah, they're mashy. Yeah, they come out of it. That's like a normal arcade beat 'em up thing. But like, the game was designed to have like 2 to 4 people beating on this boss, right? So if you're playing
Right.
alone, then I could see Streets of Rage's bosses being a little bit better for that experience. But if you're playing with two or more, if you're on the arcade, then fighting the bosses in Turtles, it's just like a brawl. And like it kind of like sinks in a little bit of that, that dire situation because the boss is hitting you, whereas in Streets of Rage, if you know how to fight the boss, you can get through without taking hardly any damage. So it's like,
it does take a long time to get there, though, and there is some strategy and planning. Like,
yeah, I'm not saying anything bad against it. I'm just saying that if you know what you're doing, Turtles can still have that like gripping your controller feeling.
Yeah. What about for Turtles in Time? There's actually a stage where it's like over the shoulder, where it's like you actually go forward and you go side to side.
oh, it's like the oh yeah. So I actually took some notes on this too. So I think Turtles in Time had some varied levels,
Yeah.
whereas Streets of Rage was all the beat 'em up levels. However, if you take these levels apart and you examine them for what they are, like the surfing through the sewers level, it feels different because of the way it looks and the way it's zipping by. But really, it's not. You're really just going up and down multi-lanes back and forth and hitting enemies. It's just the enemies don't stay on screen for very long and they only take one hit instead of multiple.
Yeah. I
Yeah,
mean, but
then there's
it is
like-
visually appealing when it
It is.
it does change it up. I mean,
and there's
like you
dodging
said,
things.
at the end of the day, we're not doing anything really different if you dissect it, but like it is
In
cool.
fact, Raphael still moves faster on the surfboard than everybody else. Just saying.
That dude could run
it's
on
all the
water
same
if he
stuff.
wanted to.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, but they also have the dodging parts too, which like Streets of Rage has like no hazards at all.
No, that
No,
is so.
That's not
okay.
true. You can
That
jump
is-
off an
that is-
elevator.
Yeah.
Yeah.
There's pits. There's the like squisher things.
Yeah.
Right.
Two, and the carts that fly in the last level.
Yeah.
3.
Yeah.
But every
I mean,
level
it's
in
only an
Turtles,
8-level game.
yeah, but every level in Turtles has like multiple things. Like the first level
And
has
I mean-
the wrecking balls, and the second level has the pitfalls, and it just felt like there were more hazards and more things to watch out for.
There are.
It was a lot more like arcadey beat 'em up, you know?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like we said, designed to take your quarters.
Yeah, but I mean, if you're on the home
Yeah.
console, it's like you get to replay it as much as you want. Who cares about that?
Yeah. I mean, you either love it or you hate it when it comes to like, stage hazards. I feel like.
I don't know. I always laugh about it when playing with people.
Yeah.
Definitely.
So it's just more fun.
Well, in fear of beating this to death, I'm going to give gameplay to Streets of Rage over Turtles.
Right to the point. For me, I went back and forth on this one because, like, one game does what the other game doesn't. And I think I actually gave this one to Streets of Rage just because, you get your weapons and whatnot. And then you also have, like, calling the police to help you out, and which, really helps out in a pinch when you're fighting bosses.
Not a super move that drains your health.
Yeah.
Like, oh yeah, that's helping.
Especially those bigger guys that like blow fire. They're like the bane of my existence. Like
Not
and they chunk your health every time they hit you. But yeah, I always save them for the bosses.
yeah.
Yeah.
I understand. This one was also kind of close for me after thinking about it more. Like, I know we sent that earlier in the time where we thought it was like a landslide, but I had to play again and again and again to kind of put myself in the position of like making fair choices. As far as the gameplay goes, I enjoyed playing both of them. I owned Streets of Rage as a kid, and I didn't have a Super Nintendo when I was younger, so I didn't have TMNT. I only got to play it at the arcade.
Could have had the Hyperstone heist.
Yeah, I didn't
Which
even
runs
know
on the
that
same
existed
engine.
as a kid. But I gave it to TMNT. I just had more fun zipping around the stages, and the high energy, it was just more fun for me. Kicking foot soldiers' butt's always fun. I don't want to take anything away from Streets of Rage in this department either. But I just had more fun running around faster and having the different turtles to pick from. It was just fun.
Fair enough.
All right, our next category is pacing. Steve, do you want to start us off with pacing?
Sure.
So pacing, for the audience, pacing is the overall level design. How long does it take to play the game? Are there things artificially fluffing the game up that are annoying? Things that would story beats too would also be under pacing. Just to kind of give you some familiarity of what we're judging on here. Sorry, Steve, go ahead.
Oh, that's all right. So in Turtles, the levels feel a lot faster, and that has a lot to do with the running speed and the attack speed. Like, you just feel like you're flying around like a whirlwind all the time, and it just like lends itself to that arcade feel. It feels like the enemies have less health in that, as opposed to Streets of Rage, where near the end of the game the enemies just take so many hits sometimes. It has that constant feel of moving forward. Whereas like Streets of Rage, you feel like, your life's really on the line, and that grittiness shows in the time it takes to fight enemies, and you got a bunch of them on you and they all have a lot of hits. It really does kind of feel like you're in some big street rumble. They did a good job pacing the games differently for what they were. I just think, for the settings, I think they both did really good in pacing. But do you guys have thoughts? I don't want to
Yeah.
go off and
No.
say when I just.
I felt like
Yeah.
Streets of Rage was like the perfect length too. Like it didn't run on. All the stages were, definitely, different. I mean, visually, obviously. Some of them had, like we talked about before, stage hazards and stuff. But I mean, I do kind of like how, like, as far as pacing, the enemies having more health, because it's like you get to like
Feels like the game's getting harder.
it's getting harder, and it also like you get to exploit the game mechanics more. Because it's like in the beginning, when they have such low life, you can't really like do as much as you want. But when you get better at the game, you can, throw them into other enemies, or you can like stun lock two enemies at the same time by, doing like quick swivels and turning around and punching and stuff like that.
I have always been in the camp that more HP is a laziness scale for increased difficulty.
They also deal more damage.
Yeah.
Actually, the higher color enemies deal more damage,
Yeah.
and sometimes behave differently.
The behaving differently part is what I prefer in a difficulty setting increase.
Yeah. I mean, well, I guess it depends, because it's like, I mean, if they're not living, much, much longer, then I feel like it's okay. Especially, in a combo game where it's sometimes you want more hits because it just feels more satisfying. You get that dopamine hit when you land the combos.
Yeah.
I don't think that like, I think the third form of like the whip girl with like the white clothing, I think she's like the only one that comes to mind when I think too much health. And actually her accompanying jerk juggler friend, because I don't really like the juggling enemy to begin with, but then they have his white version, and he's just so beefy. He takes so many hits, and I hate him.
Yeah.
I'm actually not a
But,
big fan how the last level throws all the bosses at you again. I felt that was also kind of a lazy fluffiness into the game.
See, I actually disagree. I actually love the addition of mini bosses and like bosses you've seen before in later levels. That was one of my complaints about TMNT's pacing, was that there are like no mini bosses. You fight a bunch of dudes. You reach the end, and like just not a lot happens.
But it's quick.
In the middle of levels, there are some where there's like, the big Krang guy shooting his lasers in the first level, and I think there's like a dinosaur stampede in like the fourth level, right? So there's some stuff that happens, right? But the Streets of Rage, with like the mini bosses being paced out, it creates like and then this happens, and then this happens, and then this happens kind of feel. And not just the mini bosses, there are parts in the game where you like legitimately get ambushed. Like, I think it's like level 5 on the I know it's level 5 on the train, where you get ambushed by like 8 jugglers or something like that. Just like those moments that just like stick with you, that are different. I don't know.
Yeah, but I mean, if you're talking about differences, there are some differences, and you do feel them in Streets of Rage, like the beach level and this, the city, and then the city, and then the factory, and then like, I don't know, it's like the hotel or whatever, but
well, they didn't travel through time.
Yes, but that's what I was going to say, is that the way that Turtles' levels all have such a huge difference in environmental, it helped the pacing huge, like tremendously, because, if it was your first time playing this game and you don't know what to expect, it's really exciting.
Yeah.
Okay, so I'm gonna give you that, because both games have a story. But if you skip the intro of Streets of Rage, which I think mostly everybody will do their first time playing, there's no story, right? It's just eight levels from beginning to end, and you beat who's apparently a mafia boss at the end, right? But Turtles in Time does have a story, and you experience it as you go through it, and it's snappy enough that you don't skip it. So that in that department, it's no contest, right?
Yeah.
Like T, TMNT does tell a story for sure. So that element of pacing, I think it's got it hands down.
For sure.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I-
and
kinda
and
what I
with
wanna say there.
the quickness of the gameplay and the levels, like I feel like the pacing on TMNT is what it's supposed to be, like that arcade feel, and I think that like it just does things very well in that department.
Yeah. I also
The
with the level switching too, like when you're on like the surfboard and stuff like that, I feel like it changes it just enough to where like nothing gets boring because it's like, one stage you're walking, one stage you're surfing, one stage you're on a highway on like a hoverboard, and it's like third person angle, so it just keeps it nice and fresh throughout the whole game.
but I don't like the so like I know that there are probably equal color swaps for foot soldiers as there are for any enemy in Streets of Rage, and I know that there are some other enemies in Turtles in Time, but there are a lot of freaking foot soldiers, and you experience pretty much all the colors from the beginning of the game through the end, and they don't get stronger. I feel it can't be understated that the game's challenge barely rises. And honestly, some of the bosses even struggle with that. Like, you fight Leatherhead, like what? He's like second to last or something like that, or second. Like, so
Third to
Leatherhead marks
last.
Leatherhead marks like a decline suddenly in like boss difficulty. Like, he is a joke, and then Krang is a joke, and then I actually was surprised at how easy Shredder was, and I fought him for the first time. I didn't even die.
I'm gonna guess that they
Like-
scaled it down for the home release port. I don't know if it's a
Yeah,
direct
I would imagine so.
port
Oh, maybe.
because it's so hard to beat a beat 'em up in the arcade, an old school beat 'em up by yourself.
Yeah.
So
I
it's
agree.
probably a scaled down version of that boss on the home release so that people don't like feel as frustrated.
So with that arcade type of mentality too, they didn't have to do much with different enemies. Like, the reason that they throw all the color foot soldiers at you in the beginning and keep them throughout the game is because in the arcade they would have cranked the difficulty of this sucker, driven the amount of lives you get down, and you'll have no continues, of course, without putting quarters in. So the idea was that you never saw those later levels, like almost ever. Like, most of the time with those arcade games, the later levels end up being like really lackluster because they just, knew that kids were never going to get there, right? like they like invented bosses that would shred them up, long before they made it to the final boss.
Yeah, well, I don't necessarily think that's always the case. I mean, the more exciting the new levels are, the more likely you are to spend what little quarters you have left to keep going.
See it through.
But like, once you figure out that you can take a foot soldier and smash him from one end to the other of you,
Or throw them at
and
the
that will
screen.
well, no,
Yeah,
when you
instant
smash
kill.
him, it not only instant kills him, but it instant kills everything he touches.
So strong.
So you can so you go into the clump of foot soldiers, smack the first guy upside the head, grab him, and then just smash him around like a weapon, and it kills everything.
Yeah, that's your
that-
crowd
that,
control.
unfortunately-
you wanted crowd control for Streets of Rage. Where's that? Other than your one special you get per life.
Punching and then pivoting is how you do it in Streets of Rage, and then moving, and it doesn't kill everything. You still have to fight it, but like what Turtles in Time devolved into for me was doing that, like every level, and then the lack of mini bosses make it so doing that strategy is viable to get through every level because there's always a foot soldier to beat around because there's just so many of them. Like, and that just was kind of a problem.
Yeah,
for
but
me
there
with
are
pacing.
generally a lot more enemies on screen in Turtles.
Yeah, it's a faster
Yeah.
paced game. I think that's why.
Yeah, and it's fine.
So
that-
Hyperstone Heist runs on the same engine for the Genesis. Has fewer levels. I think it has like 5 or 6 to Turtles in Time's like 8 or 9, I think,
yeah.
levels. But the 5 levels in Hyperstone Heist are twice as long, and they contain mini bosses. And I like the pacing of that game more, just because like you can't like it's not just from beginning to end, just smashing foot soldiers from side to side. Like it's got like all the same stuff, except once in a while they throw a mini boss at you.
I don't know. I feel like the levels were fast enough to where you didn't really need the mini bosses. So
Yeah, I just found by like level, the later levels, I was grateful that after you beat Krang, there's no Shredder level. You just go fight Shredder. I was like, yes, thank God.
he's the door boss.
Yeah.
It's like I have had enough.
So Don, what are you going with on pacing?
On pacing, just on the rising difficulty and mini bosses alone, I'm going to go with Streets of Rage.
What? I'm mini bosses. Like there's mini bosses in the final level.
There's mini bosses in every level after the third one.
Oh yeah. No, he's
Okay.
right.
So sorry,
He's right.
after the fourth one. You fight mini bosses in 5, 6. Sorry, there's no mini bosses in 7.
Right.
But
I think I remember
So
you
some
saying,
levels.
Don, that they'll throw like
Yeah.
2 bosses at you.
But
Oh,
they're
no,
repeat
that's at the end of the level.
bosses. So it's like, I get it, but you've already encountered this before.
yeah,
I mean, it
but
helps
still
break it
switches
up,
it up
yeah.
from fighting the normal goons.
Right.
you
Yeah.
know?
For sure. I agree. All right. So for me, I'll talk about Turtles in Time first. I really do like the pacing where like you travel in time, and if it's for your first time playing the game, you don't really know where you're going. So it definitely keeps you on edge. Every level. Um, bosses, yeah, they're all kind of like their own thing, but like they do have like their like slight mechanics to them, where it's like some zip across the screen and you got to dodge. I did like the stages, like some of the stages where you're on a surfboard or a hoverboard, and so it like changed it up a bit. As far as Streets of Rage goes, I think the difficulty was perfect up until the last level, where I felt like the difficulty spike, was out of control because it was like I would go there.
I feel like it feels like a last level though.
Yeah, it almost reminds me of Wario's Castle, where it was like I would go in with like 7 lives, and then then you get to like those 2 girl mini bosses at the end of the stage, and then you go from 7 lives to 1 continue left when you had like
Mona and Lisa do not mess around.
yeah, because you would die like I don't know, like 10 times on them and waste all your continues, and then by the time you get to the final boss, you're on your last final continue with like maybe 2 lives left. So I mean, for me, I think I'm gonna go with Turtles in Time on this one. But again, like it was close.
So, for me, I feel like even though the levels have some, differences in Streets of Rage, you get that feeling like you're in the city the whole time, except for maybe the beach. That's the only one that makes me feel out of the city. Turtles in Time, I liked going to vastly different stages every time. It helped keep my experience these 2 weeks fresh. You had the Technodrome, the big city, the bridge, prehistory, pirate ship, Wild West, the future. Like everything was just so different, and like Dan had said, slightly different gameplay change-ups like the hoverboards and the third-person mode, and things like throwing foot soldiers at Shredder's screen, little things like that. I just appreciated it a lot, and with the pacing, it helped me stay more focused and more excited. So I'm gonna go with TMNT for pacing.
Fair enough. Raw. All right. Our fourth category is playability. I'm going to kick us off here. So let's be clear. Okay. There are 2 games out in the last 3 years that encompass and eclipse both of these games. One is Streets of Rage 4. The other one is Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles Shredder's Revenge. If you were going to have 4 people over your house to play a beat 'em up, you're going to play one of these two games and not the originals. They are both better than their counterparts.
Yeah, they took.
And both kind of have a similar feel, by the way.
Yeah, they took the
They
base of what made these games great and added. I didn't play Streets of Rage 4 yet, but I do
I
like
haven't either.
Revenge of Shredder.
Streets of Rage 4 is considered by many to be the best beat 'em up ever made.
Really?
Like, it's not just the normal beat 'em up. You can combo and juggle and, like, do crazy full to dead, hit stuns if you're really good at it. It's insanely deep. And there's a roguelike mode in it where you can power up your character and just go through endless brawls and just try to high score yourself. Like, it's very
That's
good.
cool.
And there's something like, I think, like 16 characters or something. I actually have a platinum for it. I really enjoyed it. I'm working on my platinum for Shredder's Revenge too, because I really enjoyed that. But just these two beat 'em ups take the genre and they give you more controls. They get you outside of that like arcadey style feel. They try to push you into more skillful gameplay with things like dodging and blocking and super moves and charge meters and it just builds on the formula, right? So that being said, Streets of Rage is a game that was built for the home console. And it was built with those sensibilities in mind, which would be great. But again, Streets of Rage 4 exists. Turtles in Time was an arcade game, and depending on what pizza parlor you go to on the regular, you might still encounter the off-odd Turtles in Time arcade machine. And if you do encounter that machine, I believe that if you're our age, you would at least think about or ask your wife for some quarters to pop in that sucker.
Mommy, can I please have some quarters?
Just by that, so I'm going to get off my stump now, but just by virtue of you being able to stumble across a Turtles in Time machine, and you'll never stumble across a Streets of Rage machine because they don't exist and they never existed. Turtles in Time is the more playable game today.
Yeah.
So I'm just going right for it. You guys can have the
Okay.
floor now, but those are my thoughts.
So, I mean, I didn't go as far as think of like their predecessors, but I'll go, in between both games here. So, my thing with Streets of Rage, the characters that you pick in the beginning, I mean, they all kind of feel samey at the end of the day. Like, they might like attack slightly differently, but they're basically the same. Like one might, walk faster than the other. And one might hit slightly stronger than the other. But with Turtles in Time, every turtle like felt unique because like they have different specials, different weapons, different ranges
that you don't use.
Maybe. But yeah, I mean, and I felt like the power, like the different like power that they each have. So when you go from Raphael to Donatello, you can definitely tell there's a difference. With like Streets of Rage, like the walking, like the speed is like barely noticeable. So what I'm trying to get at here is like there's tons of replayability with just picking a different turtle to go through the game with. And I feel like with Streets of Rage, you're almost kind of getting the same experience no matter who you're picking. So, I mean, at least for me, I'm going to go with Turtles in Time.
All right. So for replayability on these two titles, I think that they're both going to be really great, whether you're playing alone or with a friend. I don't think there's a wrong answer here. I think they're both replayable. They're both fun.
Absolutely, for sure.
But I do have to pick one. So I decided that I was going to go with Streets of Rage in this category because of the depth of mechanics. For example, grappling the fire breather, jab stunning the wrestler, throwing enemies, jumping over your teammates for the midair team attacks. Those kinds of things add a lot of replayability that I feel Turtles didn't have. because there's so many subtle ways to alter the way that you play in Streets of Rage. I just felt like if you were to have a flowchart or whatever, you would see that Streets of Rage has like options for different lines of play. And so I kind of appreciated that as far as the replayability goes. That being said, if you found the arcade machine, I would 100% pick TMNT, but those are so rare. In that, you can play as all four. You've got 3 buddies, 4-player, we're in there.
There's no Streets of Rage arcade machines.
Yeah, but I didn't think about that either. But if I was going to sit down and play the 2 of these games with one person, I would probably go with Streets of Rage. But if I was to play alone, I'd probably go with Turtles. But at the end of the day, with the accessibility of multiplayer, I think Streets of Rage as a replayable game is just slightly more in line for me.
All right. X Factor. Title pending. X Factor is the category where we get to basically say whatever we want, judge the games by any criteria we want, and just offer some final thoughts and give our votes one way or the other for it. So I'll be quick. X Factor. I love Streets of Rage. I always will. Fills me with joy. And even after all these years playing it, I still feel like my skills can grow. And with each playthrough, I seem to get a little bit better. And I don't feel the same way about TMNT. I beat it once, beat it handily, second time I played it. And therefore, it's Streets of Rage for me.
Fair enough. Yeah, I'll be short and sweet as well. For me, I really like the technicality of Streets of Rage, because you can really tell, like, the skill is there if you try to play, well, by timing your attacks, timing your throws, being able to tech throws, being able to, play with your buddy. And you got to be careful too, because there's team attack on. So, it kind of gives you that sense of like, all right, I got to play skillfully. And then also, like there's team attacks too. So it's like, I really like that. With Turtles in Time, I felt like it was very mashy at points, or let's be honest, at through the most of the game. So I mean, like, you do get the the extra turtles and whatnot, and it is cool to play with them all, but I just don't think it is as good as the technicality of like Streets of Rage. So I think Streets of Rage is what I'm going to go with on this one.
All right, that means it doesn't matter what I pick.
We still care about your thoughts, Steve. Sending you an internet hug.
So, for the X Factor, I decided to go with TMNT. The main reason for my choice, multiple game modes. It's got multiple game modes.
True.
Yeah.
True. It does have multiple game
It
modes.
has like a time attack or whatever, a versus mode. Like it's got Streets of Rage just has the one thing you can do.
Yeah, that's a good
great.
answer.
I feel like I did time attack it. I feel like I beat that game in a half hour. 30 minutes and 11 seconds.
Also, I wanted to point out that they had a little bit of voice acting in between the levels. You got a little bit of character there. That was cool. Corny quips that the bosses say.
Yeah.
That was fun.
Shredder loves his turtle soup, man. I don't know. I've never had turtle soup. It sounds disgusting. Sounds a little swampy. I mean,
I don't know.
the turtles are eating pizza. I'd rather eat that.
Me too.
Like, couldn't he just say a line like, "I'm gonna eat your pizza after I kill you"?
They would be very upset.
Yeah.
Throwing foot soldiers at the Shredder's screen, that was like a novel thing. That was really cool. Breaking the third wall almost. Like it was pretty neat. I wanted to say, with the environmental hazards and all that, I think it sets itself apart in radical ways from the beat 'em ups of the time. Even though it's the same old Four Turtles that we all have grown to love, it still felt great. So, those are my reasons for giving it to TMNT.
Wow. Nice. I actually don't
Right.
even know who won. I think we went back and forth a lot on this.
All right. Well, I have.
I just know if I cheated, there was opportunity for Streets of Rage to win. That's what I know. We'll go ahead and we'll get to our conclusion. Aren't you guys glad I didn't just go Streets of Rage all the way down? Were you guys worried about that?
Maybe. Yeah, he definitely would have won. I didn't think Steve was going to pick Streets of Rage as much as he did.
You also have to remember that I said I owned Streets of Rage as a kid, so it's not like
Yeah.
I don't like the game.
Steve's also a skill gamer. He doesn't like to play those mashy party baby titles.
Melee is not a party game.
It's not a party game. Brawl is though.
Ooh. Don't say that around the younger generation.
Them's fighting words. The younger generation doesn't play Brawl, man.
Oh no, the ones, I don't know if you guys know any like professionals, but like Zero, for instance, it was his favorite Brawl game, and I'm just like, how?
Smash game. Ugh.
Yeah, but I think it's like the game you grew up with. I honestly do think that they think that's the
Yeah.
best one that came out, and for us it was
I
Melee.
think the best one is the newest one. Just straight up. Sorry.
Yeah,
I think the way that air dodges are handled are better than they were in Melee.
yeah.
But you can't wave dash with them.
Nope. You can't. That's okay. Anyway, final tally. Who won?
All right, so for presentation, we had 2 Turtles and 1 Streets of Rage. For gameplay, we had 1 Turtles and 2 Streets of Rage. For pacing, we had 1 Streets of Rage and 2 Turtles. For playability, we had 2 Turtles and 1 Streets of Rage. And for X Factor, we had 1 Turtles and 2 Streets of Rage. That means Turtles won 3-2.
Close fight. I honestly didn't even know who won. Like, I wasn't keeping track. Like, we went back and forth so many times.
Hopefully the viewers were in suspense as much as Dan
Yeah.
was throughout this discussion. So now we're going to set these 2 games aside. And I'm really excited for this next part of our show because we are picking from our very first viewer pool.
Yeah,
That
this is awesome.
these are all games that our listeners submitted to us, and we get to pick randomly from those. Now, if you missed this pool and you're listening, don't worry. We're going to do this type of thing every 3 episodes. So during our next episode, we will begin the pool over again. But I'm just way too excited to see what gets picked.
Yeah,
So, you guys ready?
I am.
Gonna pick it? All right, Steve, hit that randomizer button.
All right, we are randomizing our selections now. Oh my goodness.
Lay it on me.
Don't say
Lay it on me.
Don't. There's one giant turd in this pool, and I'm hoping it's not that
don't
one.
It's
tell
not
me.
that giant turd, it's the other turd.
Oh, I only know of one. What's the other one?
No,
Nate has requested that we do an episode on Conker's Bad Fur Day.
oh, that's not a turd.
Well, I know what he means, though. It's a turd in another way, or
Yeah.
bad in another way.
You had me so worried because Superman 64 was in this pool, and I did not want to play that.
Well,
Oh,
This
my
is good.
goodness.
I haven't played Conkers, so I mean, I probably played like 10 minutes of it as a kid, but this will be new for me.
Yeah, same here. This will be new for me. It's great.
yeah, so for any of the viewers that don't know, Conker's Bad Fur Day is a mature rated game with extreme, like, potty mouth themes and extremely over-the-top mature 17-plus themes.
Don't worry, we'll put a warning at the beginning of next show.
We will, but I did want to say just ahead of time for anybody listening to this episode that if that's not your thing, then you can just watch our news talk and our question of the week next week. Or
I'm sure it'll be good, though. I'm sure it'll be grand.
But in the meantime, find a way to play Conker's Bad Fur Day. It is an expensive cart, so you'll probably be emulating it. But find a way to play it. Play along. Send us in your thoughts. Nate, I hope we hear from you so we can read your thoughts about it during our episode.
For sure.
Yeah. That's the main reason we're doing this, is we want people to, converse with about the games that we play and, shared experiences with the community. So if you submitted a game and it got picked, we would love to have your input on it.
Yeah. Yeah, we want this to be about you guys. I mean, it's great that the three of us are hanging out, but like the ultimate goal is, to hang out with our viewers and, people who are listening.
Speaking of our listeners, thank you so much for listening. And I know I follow a few content creators. Do you guys?
Yeah, a little bit. Yep.
I wonder how many times a week I forget to hit the like button.
Oh,
so
yeah.
if you're listening this far and you've enjoyed what you've heard, don't forget to hit the like button. You could even go a little bit further, and if you're listening and you haven't subscribed, you could also hit the subscribe button too, and to hear more of this stuff. If you're on a podcasting platform, the best thing you could do for us is leave us a rating. 5 stars are definitely preferred. But if you're going to leave less than 5 stars, tell us why. We're just novice podcasters. We're much better gamers than podcasters. So
we'll get there.
Tell us what we could do better. Keep an eye on our community page on YouTube, because that's where we post polls and questions of the week, because we want to hear your opinion, like Dan said. And our Discord is being built. We're working on it. Bear with us. Firm dates to come soon on when we'll open that up to y'all.
Banjo with us. And once again, our hope for subscribers is to get to 50 subscribers. That's our next goal, and we
that sweet bonus episode on a topic that we don't know what it is yet. So sweet, so bonusy that we don't even know.
Yeah, it's like one of those Sonic 3 bonus stages. You don't know what you're going to get until you're in it.
Exactly. Depends on the Sonic game. You don't know what kind of bonus stage you're going to get. We're going to call it the bonus stage.
Right.
There it is.
Yeah. So, come join us. Subscribe. Do what you got to do. Leave comments, whatnot. We're here. We're all here to have fun.
Anything else to add, fellas?
I love you all.
Game over.
Game over.
Die, monster! You don't belong in this world!